Hi, I'm Ellie, and today on Mothership, we're talking about guilt. Now, there are so many things parents are supposed to feel guilty about these days. You know, breastfeeding or not breastfeeding, co-sleeping or putting them in a cot, going to work, staying at home. I actually feel quite guilty that I'm here right now talking to you. But what is the point of guilt, and do we actually need it? Is there a way we can sort of let ourselves off the hook a bit? And are we really being judged by everybody else as much as we think we are? Let's talk about it. What is mum guilt, Clemmie Telford?
Oh wow, straight off the bat. The clue's in the title, isn't it?
Do you have a lot of guilt yourself?
I don't now, but I probably did when I first became a parent. So I elaborate?
I mean, no, that's fine. Thank you for coming.
Over to me.
So, Michelle, is mum guilt something that you've struggled with?
Definitely. Had it from probably the moment I fell pregnant.
Wow. What, the actual, at the conception?
That moment.
He was like, yeah, and you were like, oh, I feel terrible.
That was a different kind of guilt, babe. That was the Catholic guilt. But no, I had that immediate guilt of, should you find out the gender of your baby? And then you find out, and then your mum says, why did you do that? There are so few surprises in life, Michelle. Why would you ruin that surprise? Guilt. And that was the
tiring.
start.
Yeah.
And then it just carries on.
Yeah.
Didn't have a natural birth, wanted to, couldn't, guilt. Didn't find it easy to breastfeed, guilt. And on it goes.
And has it gone on? Because I don't know, as I've got 2 kids now, and as I've got a bit older and they've got older, I have felt less guilty because I've started to realise that lots of other people are kind of going through these things, and that, you know, families are different and kids are different, and, you know, it's, you know, I was lucky enough to breastfeed, but I know women who weren't able to for lots of reasons and were made to feel really terrible about that. And I just think, isn't that just a waste of time?
I agree that I definitely, to begin with, suffered badly with mum guilt, and then you learn to reconcile it a bit. But then every now and then it catches you unawares. So I work full time, and once in a while one of my boys will go, oh, mummy, is there a mummy day tomorrow? That's the hard one, when it's guilt about something that from your kids.
Do you think men have it to the same degree?
No.
Would you ever say that to your partner?
No.
It's a very easy answer, and the answer is no. I don't see it in my partner at all. He doesn't feel the same way. He feels like I give so much to Finn and to you and to our family, and I just don't think he has that same emotional, internal monologue torment.
I think men find it easier to switch between different roles and not go back and forth.
Yeah.
Don't want to go into a man bashing thing, but where they're very present in the moment of, like, even if I'm out with my girlfriends, I'm still aware that I want to get home to be able to parent well the next day.
Like, I had a lot of guilt about going back to work when I had my first baby and all of that, and I think like a lot of people do. But then I went back to work and it wasn't as dreadful as I thought, and he was fine. And I realised actually I felt like a better mum.
I can give 100% when I'm there and then go away, fulfil myself and come back. You feel better for doing things for yourself, and then you feel bad for feeling that way.
Isn't motherhood brilliant? I mean, really, it's just a barrel of lols. But I think there is this temptation, isn't there? Especially I found when they're very little, I felt like, oh, we've got to go to baby swimming on Monday, and we've got to go to
baby
massage,
massage,
and then like baby Reiki, baby.
And actually, looking back, if I could say to myself when my kids were really small, like, go and spend that money on coffee and cake and having a nice time for yourself, because a 10-week-old doesn't care that it's at massage. It just wants to be stimulated in the outside world.
And you know, the other thing that I used to get terrible mum guilt for, Finn always was mucky.
My kids were
Permanent
always
snot. Just, you know, that, or like
mine has a
food.
crust, just a crust.
Yeah.
But how did people keep their
crust.
kids so clean?
And then I always used to think, their kids always look so good, and then I would feel really horrible and, you know, well, kind of pick at him.
Guilt about going out, having to break it to your kids that there's a babysitter coming and they don't want you, and even though they're going to be asleep, you've got to have a social life, and especially for your marriage, right? You've got to occasionally
You have to
try and go out.
You have to go out, actually. And I am a hermit, so I really love being at home on the sofa. It's like my favourite thing. That was pre-Finn. That's really nothing to do with Finn. But I have to push myself to go out because, again, it's important, for your marriage, but it's also important for your, like, mental well-being, so that you're actually getting conversation with people and you can actually get some stimulus.
That's hard, isn't it?
Really hard. And really hard when they look at you with big eyes.
Oh God, I'm gonna cry, Michelle. Stop.
I know.
I've definitely had days where I've gone, oh my God, right, so we've got up, we've got dressed, we've got breakfast, we've, maybe watched a night garden, and we've done a puzzle, and we've done some painting, and we've cooked some scones.
And it's 10 o'clock.
And it's 10 o'clock! And I've got to do this on my own for at least another 8 hours. And then there is a guilt that comes with it. I would have days where I just thought, but I should be enjoying this. I should just be skipping around the swings going, just doing this for 90 minutes.
When they ask you for another story, and you go, no, we read it twice, this is done. And then you come downstairs, you're like, why wouldn't I read them the other story? But at the same point, you want it over with by that point.
There is no shame in putting on a Disney movie. They are educational and they are stimulating.
Movie night is the best invention.
In their own
Depends
right.
which
Don't
one.
look at me like that. I feel like there's a lot in The Lion King. Hakuna Matata.
Bless you.
Languages. Languages.
I have learnt quite a lot from watching our nanny, who's lovely. She's called Inga, which makes you think she's 6 foot tall and from Stockholm. She's from Sydenham, down the road.
Okay.
And she will read a story, and if they ask for it again, she just goes, nope, Inga just does stories once. And they just accept that. They just know that there's a thing. She'll read them a different book.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But she won't repeat.
But
go
she
back
just
to the
has
beginning.
these great rules, which is like, no, you have one
But-
snack and then that. And yeah, she takes them to the cafe for coffee and cake, and they love her more than me. So I mean, really, who's doing
winning?
it properly?
Who's winning? But that coffee and cake thing, that's a difficult one as well, isn't it? Because I fed Finn lunch from Starbucks today.
Okay.
It's fine. And knowing that he's going to Pizza Express for a party now.
Yeah.
So that's pizza and Starbucks. And then tomorrow my dad's coming, so he'll definitely feed him junk. And then it's Finn's birthday on Sunday. Pizza again. And then it's that horrible thing of I'm just not teaching him the things that I should be.
Listen,
I should be eating like carrot.
There's always someone eating worse.
hummus.
That's what I always think.
I feel like in restaurants as well, because we love eating out, and sometimes you've fed them.
Got to get the screens out.
Sometimes you put the screen out and you see like the Huffy Puffy starts on the table with the next table with the no kids, and they're just sort of like. I do sometimes feel like turning around and going, look, what do you want? Do you want my child to sit quietly here with the screen, or do you want me to take
Ruin
it away
your meal too.
so you feel better about it? And then he throws all his cutlery on the floor and asks me where poo comes from for 25 minutes. What would you prefer
What's the
me to
option?
do?
And also, it depends what they're watching. There's some really good programs out there where they're learning stuff.
We're all about the go-getters.
Yeah,
You can
exactly.
talk to me about Peru.
I just feel like guilt can be a bit of a waste of time, because really some days you've just got to survive, and I think kind of looking after yourself as best you can, even if that means eating a sausage roll in the middle of the high street in Catford, which some of us have probably done. It's all right, isn't it?
It's all right. We just got to get through. And the fact that we feel guilty means that we are caring.
Yeah, because
But,
I
you
read
know-
somewhere that guilt is the only emotion that's useless. It's the only kind of emotion that doesn't
actually.
really serve a sort of an actual purpose. But then I said that to my mum, and she said, well, that's bollocks. I mean, I don't think she used that word.
Probably not.
But my mum said, no, that's not true, because sometimes guilt can be an alarm bell. It can be like maybe you are working too hard, or maybe you are, going out too much. And I was like, oh, God, thanks. But yeah, is it ever useful?
I think that internal monologue is really difficult to turn off. I spend a lot of time thinking that everyone else is doing a better job at being a mum. And it's exhausting, and it's mentally exhausting. And then I spend the other part of my time trying to think about what they think of me.
Yes.
They must think this about me. They must
I do think
that
that about you, just so
I
you know.
know.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I've been thinking
babe.
it for ages.
But you do spend so much time thinking about that then the last third of your brain, which is trying to deal with all the other things that we're trying to do, be a mum, be a sister, be a daughter, be a partner, whatever it is, it just all becomes a little bit too much. And so there has to come a point at which one of your mates says to you, please stop beating yourself up. You're doing good.
You're doing good.
Yeah, and that
With
is
the best intentions. Well, they're loved and they're happy.
I think we're being judged sometimes by the people less than we think we are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
For
mean?
sure.
I'm never really thinking about what other people are up to. Or if I see a mum on her phone, I think, God, maybe she just has had a really hard day, and this is the first 5 minutes she's had to look at Facebook. Or, a big
Which
thing
is a
for
priority.
me. Yeah, which is, as we all know, key.
Do you think you
key.
were more that you would make those judgments more before you were a mum? Before I had Finn, I would think no plastic toys.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, all the vegetables.
All the vegetables. I'm gonna do. I read that book about why French kids eat veg or whatever it is. Yeah, and I was like, that's gonna be me. Yeah.
You absolute moron.
I'm gonna be serene. That is how I'm gonna float through this.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna use my phone.
Never going to bribe them.
Now, the reality is we do what we can to survive, and that's just okay.
Yeah. I think there's been a shift in terms of mums being more honest about sort of how they find parenting challenging, which is, of course, another word for
Living home.
You know, that's something we've definitely talked about online a lot.
Yep.
And we've actually been publicly shamed in return.
We have.
By a major newspaper.
They pulled out a photo of mine, actually, where my boys had, while I was on the loo, taken a packet of frozen fish fingers out of the freezer and were eating them. And then they were trying to suggest that I let my kids eat frozen fish fingers.
Which you do.
Yeah, of course.
But what I liked was, of course, there was then out of that came the Solidarity TEA hashtag, where women all over the country posted these pictures of them giving their children, admittedly cooked, fish fingers. And I just thought, this really signifies a change, doesn't it? That, you know,
that we're in this together.
We actually are supporting each other more than we're judging each other a lot of the time. Having said that, there were the comments, some of which I'm going to read for you now.
I feel slightly anxious about this.
So Roger from London, he says, why don't these women, he means us, not get a decent nanny and stop acting with so little respect for themselves, their husbands and their children? And they wonder why men get mistresses. I mean, it's definitely because we give our kids fish fingers for tea, isn't it?
I mean, it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Oh, Roger, back off.
I know. This comment is from a woman, possibly even more disappointingly. She's answered Roger's point. Nancy says, because they have no values or self-respect, mummies have in general become lazier and more self-absorbed. I breastfed all my children and never gave them dummies, but comforted them in my arms. Call me smug. You're smug! This one's nice. This is just 4 words, but I think it says so much really about the person who wrote it on the internet. You can't trust women.
He's got a point.
Thank you, the Dalai Lama, for that motivational quote. Stick that on a sunset, stick it on your Facebook. That's
Nailed
brilliant.
it.
What are your tips for coping with mum guilt?
Speak to your mates. Ask them if they're feeling the same way as you. Do they also kind of believe that someone else is making a judgment about them and obsess over things at 2 a.m. like you do?
I think it's helpful if you can get a friend as well who's got older children than yours.
Yes.
So they've been
Or
through it,
who's
and
a
they
worse
can say,
parent.
Yeah.
You've got to always find a friend who's,
Yeah.
who's a worse parent. They're the best.
That's
Who
really
set
good.
the bar a little bit lower.
But definitely share it. You just got to share it and let someone like give you a little bit of support because we can't do it on our own.
And find someone who's got grown children who'll say to you, look, I gave them ketchup sandwiches for 7 years and now she's a human rights lawyer. Something like that.
That's a great one.
If they are a happy, healthy human, then you're probably doing okay.
You must be doing something right.
Yeah,
Would
we've
be.
we've kept them alive and happy up until now. We're doing okay.
Yeah.
True.
I think we started at this point, but often that we take on the guilt more than we need to.
Share it.
So there we go, mum guilt, done. Thank you, Clemmie. Thank you, Michelle. And do leave us a comment below and tell us what you'd like to hear the Mothership talking about next.
What?